115. Vaisampayana said, Meanwhile, O Janamejaya, Dhritarastra begat upon Gandhari 100 sons, and upon a Vaisya wife another, besides those 100. And Pandu had by his two wives Kunti and Madri 5 sons, who were great charioteers and who were all begotten by the celestials for the perpetuation of Kuru line. Janamejaya said, O best of Brahmanas, how did Gandhari bring forth those 100 sons, and in how many years? What were also the periods of life allotted to each? How did Dhritarastra also beget another son in a Vaisya wife? How did Dhritarastra behave towards his loving, obedient, and virtuous wife Gandhari? How were also begotten the 5 sons of Pandu, those mighty charioteers, even though Pandu himself labored under the curse of the great Rishi, ye sleep, O thou for ascetic wealth and great learning, tell me all these in detail, for my thirst for hearing everything related to my own ancestor hath not been slaked. Vaisampayana said, One day Gandhari entertained with respectful attention the great Dvaipayana, who came to her abode, exhausted with hunger and fatigue, gratified with Gandhari's hospitality. The Rishi gave her the boon she asked, viz. That she should have a century of sons, each equal unto her lord in strength and accomplishments. Some time after, Gandhari conceived, and she bore the burden in her womb for 2 long years without being delivered, and she was greatly afflicted at this. It was then that she heard that Kunti had brought forth a son, whose splendor was like unto the morning sun. Impatient of the period of gestation, which had prolonged so long her own case, and deprived of reason by grief, she struck her womb with great violence, without the knowledge of her husband, and thereupon came out of her womb, after 2 years, growth a hard mass of flesh, like unto an iron ball. When she was about to throw it away, Dvaipayana, learning everything by his spiritual powers, promptly came there, and that first of ascetics, beholding that ball of flesh, addressed the daughter of Suvala, Thus what hast thou done, Gandhari? Without enduring to disguise her feelings, addressed the Rishi and said, having heard that Kunti had brought forth a son like unto Surya, the sun god himself in splendor, I stuck in grief at my womb. Thou hadst, O Rishi, granted me the boon that I should have 100 sons, but here is only a ball of flesh for those 100 sons. Vyasa then said, Daughter of Suvala, it is even so, but my words can never be futile. I have not spoken an untruth even in jest. I need not speak of other occasions. Let 100 pots full of clarified butter be brought instantly, and let them be placed at a concealed spot. In the meantime, let cool water be sprinkled over this ball of flesh. Vaisampayana continued, That ball of flesh, then sprinkled over with water, became in time divided into 101 parts, each about the size of the thumb. These were then put into those pots full of clarified butter that had been placed at a concealed spot and were watched with care. The illustrious Vyasa then said unto the daughter of Suvala that she should open the covers of the pots after full 2 years. And having said this and made these arrangements, the wise Dvaipayana went to the Imavat mountains for devoting himself to asceticism. Then in time, King Duryodhana was born from among those pieces of the ball of flesh that had been deposited in those pots. According to the order of birth, King Yudhishthira was the eldest, The news of Duryodhana's birth was carried to Bhishma and the wise Vidura. The day that the haughty Duryodhana was born was also the birthday of Bhima, of mighty arms and great prowess. As soon as Duryodhana was born, he began to cry and bray like an ass. And hearing that sound, the asses, vultures, jackals, and crows uttered their respective cries responsively. Violent winds began to blow, and there were fires in various directions. Then King Dhritarastra, in great fear, summoning Bhishma and Vidura and other well-wishers, and all the Kurus and numberless Brahmanas, addressed thee and said, "The eldest of them, Princess, Yudhishthira is the perpetuator of our line. By virtue of his birth, he hath acquired the kingdom. We have nothing to say to this. But shall this my son, born after him, become king? Tell me truly what is lawful and right under these circumstances." As soon as these words were spoken, O Bharata, jackals and other carnivorous animals began to howl ominously, and mocking those frightful omens all around, the assembled Brahmanas and the wise Vidura replied, "O king, O bull among men, when these frightful omens are noticeable at the birth of thy eldest son, it is evident that he shall be the exterminator of thy race. The prosperity of all dependeth on his abandonment. Calamity there must be in keeping him. O king, if thou abandonest him, there remain yet for the 99 son. If thou desirest the good of thy race, abandon him, O Bharata. O king, do good to the world and thy own race by casting off this one child of thine. It hath been said that an individual should be cast off for the sake of family, that a family should be cast off for the sake of a village, that a village may be abandoned for the sake of the whole country, and that the earth itself may be abandoned for the sake of the soul." When Vidura and those Brahmanas had stated so, King Dhritarastra, out of affection for his son, had not the heart to follow that advice. Then, O king, within a month were born a full 100 sons unto Dhritarastra, and a daughter also in excess of this 100. And during the time when Gandhari was in a state of advanced pregnancy, there was a maid servant of the Vaisya class, who is to attend on Dhritarastra. During that year, O king, was begotten upon her by the illustrious Dhritarastra a son endued with great intelligence, who was afterwards named Yuyutsu. And because he was begotten by Kshatriya upon a Vaisya woman, he came to be called Karna. Thus were born unto the wise Dhritarashtra 100 sons, who were all heroes and mighty chariot fighters, and the daughter over and above the 100, and another son Yuyutsu of great energy and prowess, begotten upon a Vaisya woman. Thus ends the 115th section in the Sambhava Parva of the Adi Parva.